All right. Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Crankin at the Creek Town Hall. It's good to virtually see everyone again, and we're really looking forward to seeing everyone in Elizabethtown this weekend at Browns Creek. I'm Brian Russell, the league director. I'm joined by many members of the league staff here tonight that will essentially walk us through what to expect this weekend, and that is the intent. We've got a lot of new things going on this season, both in terms of new venues and new formats. And Browns Creek is no exception. We've got some new things going on there. So even if you're a longstanding member in the league, there's something new probably to learn tonight, and that's our intent. One of which is season theme or event theme for Browns Creek. We are beach bashing there in Elizabethtown, and I hope everyone is bringing their beach bash garb to the table to do that. Pit zone decorations, costumes, and the like. That's what we're doing at Crankin in the Creek. So we've got beach bash set up. Format for tonight. What I expect is because we do have some new things to cover. We'll take about 40 minutes with the staff to walk through three main areas. We'll start with arrival, what to expect when you show up in Elizabethtown and come to the venue. If you're a volunteer, if you're camping, we'll start there. And then we will go to Saturday. We'll walk through the schedule essentially and tell you what's going on all day Saturday. And then same thing, third part for Sunday, we'll walk through the Sunday schedule. And then at the end of which, probably 30, 40 minutes of that. And then we will take questions for the remainder of our time this evening. Doesn't keep you from putting questions into the chat window as we go along. Shell Frost, our programs director, is going to moderate the chat window. And as has become tradition here in North Carolina, if you are a student athlete, the first student athlete to ask a question is going to get a special prize. And that prize is brought to us from our league sponsor, Fidlock. Fidlock sponsors specifically our adventure program, and they are offering a $50 discount code to their online store for that first student athlete who asks a question tonight. So thank you very much, Fidlock. A couple of them are on the line with us tonight, and it's great getting your support for the entire season. Before I turn it over to some other folks, let me walk everyone through where to find the information you're looking for at Browns Creek. So I'm going to share my screen here and point everyone to the website. So if you're looking to find out what you need to know at Browns Creek, go to the website, go to the What's Happening tab at the top, and scroll down and click on Event Schedule. Event schedule pulls up and scroll on down to the Crankin at the Creek section. And we tried to build the website, all our events, where you should be able to find most everything you're looking for within about one click. And so we've got the venue map on the website, and we'll spend some time going around that tonight, give everyone an orientation on where you're coming in to the venue, parking to the left, camping to the right, pit zone in the middle. We'll walk through a little bit of that tonight, so you can absolutely find the venue map on the website. Additionally, in the center here, several buttons, items of interest we thought you'd want to see. Probably most prevalent, the race course preview is on there, both the file and the video. Diane is about to talk to us. We're still looking for some volunteers. Click on that link, sign on up. Camping information, race results, and call-up list. Just posted those this morning. So if you're a student athlete, you want to know where you are in the seating order, those call-up lists are available. Probably the key document, and I want to just spend a couple moments walking through the change we made for the season, is the event flyer. The event flyer is now a 2-pager, and I recommend if you're got the website up, click on the flyer and follow along tonight. So as all the staff members talk about their respective areas, you can click on that section to get the information you need. For example, when Sean Moore starts talking about our course inspection process, you can click on that link and see the exact schedule for course inspection on Saturday and who's on course at any one time and what the expectations are for coaches and student athletes. So that's how we've structured the flyer. It's a 2-pager. I think this is the one thing you want to print off before you leave for the weekend, have in your pocket. It is a live document, so if we do make changes to the schedule, we will update this, and it will always be on the website. And a couple QR codes to get to some important information. And again, we'll spend some time walking through the schedule tonight. So that's the game plan. Overview of arrival, overview Saturday, overview Sunday. Take your questions throughout, and then certainly spend some time at the end to answer your questions. So with that, let's go to Diane LeBlanc, our volunteer coordinator. If you can spend just a minute or two, Diane, tell people what to expect when they arrive. We still need some volunteers. Diane, over to you, please.
Okay, thanks, Brian. So welcome everyone to our town hall. We're so excited to see you all at Browns Creek on Saturday. Couple of things that I need to share with you really quick. There are 196 slots for this race. We have 166 of those filled, or 84.7%. We have certain volunteer slots that we call mission critical. Our biggest mission critical that we need at this point are sweeps for shift 3. I'm sorry, not sweeps. Course marshals for shift 3. We need 4 course marshals for that. Just a reminder, you have to be a level 1, 2, or 3 coach to fill that volunteer slot. That slot goes from 11:45 to 2:40, and the orientation for that shift will be at 8:15 on Sunday morning. I also want to let you know, this was kind of a surprise. We do need a sweep for wave 5. So that's the last sweep that we have. And so if you would like to volunteer for any of those, please check out the link that you'll see for our volunteer signups. Second thing, this is a change for this year, to some respect. Jenny and I, Jenny is our other absolutely amazing volunteer coordinator. We do this together. We are requesting that if you have a volunteer slot, that you please do not come to the volunteer table to sign in for your volunteer slot until the appointed time, which is part of that slot. That would be the beginning time. The reason why is because we have had people who have come and signed up and signed in for their volunteer spot, and then we don't see them, or we have to go hunt them down, and that is very time consuming. And depending on what that volunteer slot is, some of these are just really critical. So we ask that you please do not do that. Jenny let me know really quick that I did have an error. The sweeps for shift 3, your training will be at 11:10. Thank you, Jenny, for reminding me of that. Okay, so the second thing was, please do not report to your appointed time. And the third thing is something that we're really pressing this year. You must sign a volunteer waiver. So we are hoping to be able to do that electronically. However, we know that sometimes things go a little sideways, and so we will have paper copies for you to sign. You will only need to sign a volunteer waiver. It's just one per season. And so we just need to make sure that we have those for everyone. That's everything that I have. Again, we're looking forward to seeing you this weekend. Thank you for everyone who has already signed up to volunteer. We cannot possibly have a race without our volunteers. Y'all are awesome. We look forward to seeing you. And we do have some incentives that we'll be sharing with you this weekend. Thanks, Brian.
Thank you, Diane, and thank you, Jenny, for what you do. Volunteers are critical to making the magic happen. And as a preview of that mug, some of you may have seen early on, if you sign up for 4 or more events this season, that mug is coming to you. So that's a pretty nice mug, and thanks for thinking of that idea, both of you. I know we have some questions in the chat, and Shell, why don't we go to some of those questions when we get through the arrival portion, so you have time to rack and stack them, and we have a chance to answer them. What I'd like to do now, since we're opening camping Friday afternoon and evening, and some of you will be arriving Friday evening. Why don't we go to Michael Lashley, our camping coordinator, spend a minute or two on what to expect for camping at Browns Creek. And Michael, I'll pull up the map, and if you want me to point anything, happy to do that.
Yeah, thanks, Brian. Thanks, Brian. So anyone who's already registered for camping should have gotten an email today giving specific instructions on what to do when they arrive and where to go for the camping. A couple of things to touch on. We ask that your arrivals don't occur before 4 p.m. on tomorrow afternoon, or I'm sorry, Friday afternoon. And that you don't arrive after about 7:30. I know things come up. We understand that. If you're going to get there at 8, it's not a problem. We don't want folks running at 9, 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night. So try to be respectful of the other campers that are set up in your area, and don't arrive after 7:30, 8 o'clock max. The camping area for the main field where a lot of you have camped in the past. Yep, thanks, Brian. That got adjusted this year. It's been moved from the end of the park or the grass area to this section. So what I'm getting at is we're trying to estimate how many folks we can fit there. So when you're camping, try to kind of pack it in a little bit. How well we do this year will help determine how much we can accommodate for next year. So we'll be evaluating that through the weekend and trying to get a better grasp on exactly what we can accommodate in the future. Quiet time. We ask that minimize noise from 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. And in particular, Brian, along the east side of the woods there's some residents that live in the houses there where where your hand is, a little bit north of there. Try to be respectful of those folks. We are camping at these venues as a privilege. It's not a guarantee. And Elizabethtown does an incredible job of accommodating us when we're in the area. Touching on the generators, no generators at the main field. You can use generators at the pump track and at the lock and dam. However, never is it acceptable to bring a really loud generator. We don't want those. That's not what this is about. Final thing is when parking at the pump track in the tent area, no vehicles are allowed on the grass there. If you would, just try to park along the entrance roads on the side and just try to pack in there. The center section for tents is a manicured area, and we don't want to be driving on that area vehicles. The last thing I'll mention is for making reservations at Danville and other venues that are coming up. Please check carefully before you click accept or to purchase your site. I'm getting some emails from folks who are choosing sites that may not be exactly what they meant to choose. And with the new software we're using to make reservations, it's really difficult to move folks around, change quantities. So just try to be really aware of that. And Brian, that's about it.
Okay, fantastic, Michael. Thank you so much for coordinating what you do. Camping's a unique part of our events and venues, and certainly appreciate that. If you got any questions about that, certainly throw them in the chat. We're going to pause here after our next staff member, which is Ben Harbor, operations manager. If everyone can take a look at all of these icons on the map, the best way I can describe Ben's job is making sure all the icons fit and work together. Our operations manager. So Ben, I'll move the map for you as required, but why don't you just walk folks through kind of what to expect as most come in Saturday morning?
Absolutely. Thank you, Brian. So again, my name is Ben Harbor, your operations manager. As you come in the park in the normal gravel road, your vehicle parking and team trailer parking will be on your left in those rows. You will be greeted by wonderful volunteers. They're doing the best to get you in quickly, get you parked and into the activities. So be respectful, be mindful, be patient as we get you in. As you continue down Saturday morning, pit zone, according to our flyer, will be open at 10 a.m. So make sure you read that flyer and understand. We're going to do our best because we have changed a little bit of how we lay out the venue this year. We're going to do our best Friday to ensure that we can get vehicles in to do a wrap drive around of pit zone for drop-offs. So be mindful of how we kind of lay that out. It'll be a new exciting thing for us to plan this coming Friday. So be watchful for that as we go into pit zone. We'll be manipulating pit zone. We'll have the registration tent and a league trailer set up. So there's gonna be a lot of activities. So be very, very careful as you're walking in through and around. And then food trucks will be coming in. Porta johns will be set up. So a lot of movement. I ask you to drive slow. I ask you to be careful and cautious as people, bikes, and objects are moving all throughout the field. the best important question that most people want to know is, where's my team at in pit zone? If you go back to the website that Brian mentioned, to the what's happening, event schedule, all the way down to the event flyer. In the event flyer on the left side, you have a venue link, the description, I think it's what it's called. Venue guidance is the word I'm looking for. That guidance is going to open up a document that Brian is showing you, and you'll scroll down and see some more details. And right in the center is our pit zone map. That's where every team can be laid out. We're going to have signs stuck in the ground to designate your allotted spaces for your teams. That map, we hope, stays exactly the same for every venue. So we're going to do our best to make sure the pit zone fits, but if you want to reference that, share it with your teams, tell everybody what row you're on, what side you're on, please do so. Our parking volunteers and pit zone volunteers will have that info in case you did not console your electronic devices before arriving. But we will have maps to show and direct people. So go through all that, look through there. It'd be great to understand what all is happening, where it's happening, so that you're not confused on race weekend. But if you have questions, find me. I'm probably the one that's running in 7 directions, but not sure where I'm going. But we'll be glad to help you out. Back to you, Brian.
All right, great. Ben brings up a great point. I'm actually wearing staff jersey, put the staff jersey on the screen behind me. Find any of us out there during the weekend. Hey, where's this? Where's that? We're all there to help and get you in the right place. One more thing, and then we'll go to some questions. Just to make sure we've covered those. You know, you're arriving. Pit zone's open at 10 o'clock. That's also when registration opens. And new for this season, we are having all student athletes. If you're coming to Browns Creek to do whatever you're doing, you're racing, you're riding, whatever it is, everyone will get a wristband. These wristbands will be in the team packet. So head coaches, when you pick up your plates, you're going to have some wristbands in there as well. Make sure all your registered athletes have their wristband for the weekend. So let's pause there. Shell, can you walk us through any of the questions that popped while we were discussing arrival that we can answer now?
We have a few folks asking how call-ups are determined and who they ask if they have questions about it.
I'll give it a crack. Call-ups are determined essentially in 2 ways. For the majority of our categories, it's determined by your season points from last season. So we compare all the athletes in a particular category. We look at season points from last season. Then from most points to least points, we seed those athletes first. And then behind that, if there are athletes remaining that don't have points from last season because they're new, we then put them in order based on a random team order. That link is available in the coaches resources on the website if you want to take a look what the random team order is. But we basically asked your head coaches, like, rank your riders. And so when we get to the next team, we pull the next rider from that category off the list and slot him or her there. So that's generally how most of our category call-ups are determined. Points from last season, from most points to least points, and then random team order, fastest rider to slower rider is the majority of that. 2 special cases, and I won't go into much of the detail on it, and the data told us it was the right way to do. So for middle school A boys and for high school 2 boys, because those categories are so large and had multiple fields, possibly up to 3 based on the numbers, we actually used some projected lap times to put them into fields first, fastest to slowest, and then we use their points from last season to actually rank them in their particular field. A little bit complicated, but when you look at the data, it eliminates a lot of passing opportunities and fields kind of quote unquote crashing into each other, pun intended, so to speak. But if you have any questions, shoot a note to info@northcarolinamtb.org, and we'll do our best to address if you got a question about why you're in a particular spot on the call list. That's generally how it goes.
Eli, no.
Brian, I'm sorry. I was going to bring up a question that went with this from the chat, unless you were going to do that, Sean.
Go ahead.
The question was, how does an AB rider get put in front of an MSA rider? And the reason is that MSA boys category is being ranked based on their 3.5 mile lap average time rather than points. And so looking at their performance over the course of the races, that lap average places them in relative order according to speed rather than according to point totals.
Okay, thank you, Sean. And Shell, any other questions we can cover now, or we certainly can always come back to them at the end too.
Yeah, one I'd answer now. Eli Novak wondered if level one course marshals specifically need to have WFA training.
No, they do not. We had that on the signups pretty early, and then we pulled that off. Level ones do not need to have WFA training in order to perform marshal responsibilities. So thank you for asking for that clarification. Okay, let's move on to Saturday. Again, we can always come back to the questions, and we'll save some time at the end to make sure they're all addressed. And Shell, just keep me honest. We've had an essay, you know, that first one identified. We want to make sure we recognize that. But now we're into Saturday morning, about 10 o'clock, setting up pit zone, pulling packets, and getting ready for some of the first activities, of which will be programs activities. All three programs represented at Browns Creek: Grit, Adventure, Teen Trail Course. So let's walk through each of those real quick. I believe we've got Sharon Prochaska from the Grit Committee to walk us through what to expect for the Grit programs. Sharon.
Hey, thanks, Brian.
Yeah.
Yep. 11:45 will be our Grit all-female pre-ride check-in at the Grit tent. And in the pit zone, it'll be in that big blue area. Registered female student athletes should arrive at check-in on time with their race plate on their bike and their weekend wristband. Make sure you and your bike are ready to ride. It's a very chill one-lap ride that will session sections of the course. The goal is to make new female friends from across the league and get comfortable with the course together. You'll have additional opportunities to pre-ride with your team later in the day, and the pre-ride will wrap up by 1:15. Throughout the day, there'll be a ton of activities at the Grit tent. The Rider Development Project will be running a goal setting station, and the Health and Wellness Project will have a drop box where you can anonymously submit any questions you would like help with about fear, doubt, anxiety related to racing or riding. And then some of these questions will be answered in the next Grit podcast. From 3 to 4, there's an activity for registered mentor program participants and their Grit ambassadors in the pit zone. And 4 to 5 is game hour before the Grit tent closes at 5. So come on over to the Grit tent and make new friends, color, play games, practice with mechanical kits, and just hang out. And see the Grit flyer in the event flyer. You click on Grit. That's it. Thanks, Brian.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much, Sharon. Appreciate that. And I think next, with our Choose Your Own Adventure season, we've got some choices for you at Browns Creek, including an adventure course. So let's go to Golden Moor to talk a little bit about what that's going to look like on Saturday.
All right. The first thing that is gonna happen is our adventure area is going to open at noon, and that will stay open until 5 p.m. And in this space, we're just going to have all kinds of activities from skills challenges, bike games, clinics, ramps, skinnies, just all kinds of stuff set up for the kids to enjoy. You'll also be able to accomplish your adventure passport activity number 1, and that is learning some basic map and compass skills. And we'll be having clinics for that on the hour throughout the day, ending, I do believe, around maybe, I think, 4 o'clock. The adventure area is open until 5 p.m. We are also going to have an adventure ride or adventure, oh gosh, I'm like losing my brain here, an adventure course, basically, that athletes and their coaches can go and explore. That's going to be open on Saturday from 1 until 4 p.m. There's going to be a tent up and a feather flag for Fidlock and some volunteers who will get you ready to ride the course. Make sure you have the items that you need. You will have to be a level 2 or a level 3 coach to guide your riders on that course. And of course, you have to make sure your ratios are correct to ride that course also. So the 6-to-1 or the 8-to-2. Let's see. And that course will also be open on Sunday too, but I guess we will get to that. Anything I'm missing, Shell? With the adventure ride.
Guys, I do not know because I was answering questions in the chat. But I
Okay.
trust that you've got it covered.
Okay. Yeah, let's see. I think the adventure course, you've got to begin it before 4 p.m. You've got to be on the course before 4 p.m. and then it's going to be closing at 5. And I think that's about it for the adventure course. I have ridden parts of it. It's pretty fun. I always really enjoy checking out the improvements that the trail crew has done there to the trails. They really just keep everything fresh and new. You're also going to be able to accomplish another passport activity while on the trail, which is follow a trail next to a creek. So you can bring that to the adventure area and get that stamped. So, okay, I think that's it.
So Golden, fantastic. Thanks for giving a shout out to Cape Fear Sorba, the trail boss there. We had a trail work day last week on Saturday. Some of our student athletes coaches got to work on the race course and make improvements to it. It is a special place, something new every time I go there. I did spy a question in the chat earlier. I'm not very good at watching chat while I'm running these things, but someone asked about the distance of the adventure course, and it's about 5 miles of trail, this light blue area on the map here. I record about 4.9 on my computer when I went to ride it. So you've got 5 miles of trail out there to ride, and plenty of quote unquote bailout points if you want to come back early and finish your ride. So yeah, looking forward to that. And that's mentioned in Cape Fear Sorba is a good segue into our Teen Trail Corps activity setup for the day. I think Leonard Van Hoos, our Teen Trail Corps committee lead. Leonard, are you on the line ready to give us an overview?
Yes, I am. Like the adventure area, we will be at our TTC tent from 12 to 5. We've got several activities, beach volleyball, bucket beanbag toss. We've got an RC crawler. It's important that your student athletes bring their activity passport. Activity number 22 and 25, if they're completed and stamped, which is a trail core activity, they can get their chance at driving the crawler across an obstacle. We will have the Stoke sticks there for the student athletes to sign, and we'll be sharpening some tools and anything else we can think of. And Shell, I think that's everything we got going on. It's pretty sure.
Okay. Solid, Leonard. Thank you very much. Excited to see our brand new Teen Trail Corps tent out there, and thanks for your leadership with that program. For sure. I think we'll be able to meet some of our new Teen Trail Corps ambassadors this weekend too. Four new ambassadors. It was pretty cool. So looking forward to seeing them out there. With that, we're through kind of noon, 1 o'clock. A lot of programs, things going on, but also course inspection and some meetings with the coaches. So I want to turn it over now to Sean Moore, our director of team and coach development, to walk through coach meeting, course inspection process for Saturday. So Sean, over to you, please.
Sure. 11:30 a.m. we're going to have our coaches meeting. That is mandatory for head coaches. Level 2, level 3 coaches are welcome to join. Level 1s can come. However, whenever we do the course inspection ride, that is going to be limited to ride group leaders only. So level 2, level 3 coaches only, just due to the sheer volume of people that we're going to be taking out on the course for course inspection during that time period. So at 11:30 we'll have our meeting. At 11:45 we will be at the trail. Please come kind of ready to roll from the meeting onto the trail. There will be a little bit of time for us to divide up into groups. If you are going to be participating in the grit activities, then you need to be lining up in the first 2 groups in order for us to get you back in time for you to then go and lead the grit rides. Other than that, you're welcome to select whatever group you want to be in. We will then go out on our course inspection, anticipate some stopping to discuss certain things that are on course that need to be coached to. And then we will finish up those laps or that lap. And that should roll right into those coaches that are leading grit pre-rides to then go over to the grit tent and take care of that as well. Our course inspection for student athletes, that opens up at 1 p.m. And the beginning is 1 to 2:30 p.m. The red flag or pre-ride session, this is for one lap student athlete racers only. So anyone in a one lap race, so your middle school Bs, your HS3s, those are going to be the people who are going to be out on the course then. Our suggestion to you and our strong guidance is that if you have a mix of beginner and experienced student athletes that meet that one lap category divide, then put one group of your experienced student athletes out first, and then wait for all the other teams to put their one group of experienced student athletes out, and then put your less experienced. The idea being that the more experienced ones won't need to stop as much. And so then the later groups will already be anticipating stopping at around the same time. Please be mindful of other groups stopping, and the guidance that we give you is if the group in front of you stops, you stop. If the group in front of you motions or otherwise communicates for you to go ahead and move around them, by all means, you may then pass them. But let's not just start trying to jockey for position, especially with these one lap student athletes. Give everybody plenty of space to experience the things that they need to experience. Then from 2:30 to 4, we have that re-ride session, and that is for all student athletes that are involved in the multi-lap categories. And this will be under the yellow flag. So all of your MSA and your HS2, HS1, and varsity student athletes, they will be the ones that are going to be on course at this time. There's typically less stopping because these are more experienced student athletes. However, this is not race pace. This is not full gas. This is not anything like that. And also, again, being mindful and aware of other groups. There should not be jockeying for position. Every year I say this in every race, I get someone coming back talking about someone being rude and yelling at them to get out of the way and things like that. That is not who we are, and that's not how we run things. Be patient. Everyone's trying to look at the course. You're not, the training that you do Saturday before the race is not make or break your performance on Sunday. So be mindful and aware, use that course inspection time wisely. And then at 4 o'clock to 5:15, we have that kind of free ride session. And this is for pairs of student athletes at least. And they can be from different teams, but using the buddy system can go out and kind of ride the course at their own pace. However, this is not race pace again, being mindful that there are other people out on the race course and being courteous to those other users as well. Making sure that they can go out and just enjoy themselves for that last little bit of time. They need to start their last lap before 5:15. And then at 5:15, I ask that coaches meet me at the start line. And at 5:30, we will have a coach ride on the course to sweep and make sure that the course is clear. And that will be the official end of the course being open, is that 5:30 time. Are there
All right,
any
Sean.
questions?
Yeah,
We have a
is
student
lovely.
athlete question that's relevant to the course. And it was the first student athlete question that was submitted in the chat. So from Aiden Sexton would like to know why student athletes cannot hit wooden jumps during the race.
So our first and foremost concern in all activities are safety. And as a risk management factor, that is something that has to be taken into consideration. But also NICA has rules about what times that wooden features can be utilized. They can't be taller than 16 inches. They can't be there for the purposes of jumping and things like that. And if there is an alternative, then that is for the race course purposes. That's what we have to use. The only obvious one that we don't work around that doesn't kind of fit into those guidelines is bridges. Wooden bridges, if they provide a way across something that otherwise you can't get past, then those are fine. But wooden jumps in and of themselves are not something that are going to feature on a micro race course.
Aiden, thanks for the question. Come see me this weekend. I'll show you my 87-page NICA venue manual, which gives us all the guidance on how we set up our venues here to ultimately keep you safe, just like Sean said. But Aiden, if you can throw your email in the chat, and Shell, if you would capture that, we'll get you your $50 discount code to Fidlock. So thank you, Aiden, for asking the first question. Shell, any other questions about Saturday that jump out to you from the chat window before we move on to Sunday?
Joel Goldberg would like to know what the plan is for Saturday, since there's 60% chance of rain currently.
I actually save weather till the very end of our presentation, so I'll cover weather in those decisions at the end. Just so I know everyone stays on the line and listens to us. No, I'm kidding on that. Okay, well, let's move to Sunday then. I'm going to go back to the race flyer and talk through a couple schedule things. Already went through the call up procedures. I'll just mention when you go to the race schedule, please, coaches, note your staging time. Student athletes, note your staging time. It's yours truly that stands in the staging area. We will have your team signs out there. Stand behind your team sign. And at 9 o'clock that morning, yours truly is calling out middle school 8th grade boys field 1. I'm starting at the top of the list, which is all published, and I'm walking down that list to get you into the start chute so we can start that race on time. So be there at call it time, 8:40, 8:50 for this category. I'm calling off your name so we can start that race at 9 o'clock on the nose. Take a look at the race schedule, please, everyone. This is a change from last season. If you've been with us before, a 5-wave race schedule, mainly driven by some of our category changes. Folks know at this point, high school 3 is a 1-lap category, so we paired those with the 1-lappers up front, and we did some other things based on the size of our category. So just pay attention to that. A little bit different than last season. But this is the schedule for Sunday. And again, if any changes are made, it will be reflected on this flyer. And if we make any major changes, we'll get the word out that those changes are made. But this is the schedule. You will find that on the flyer right there. What I'd like to do now is introduce our race director, Todd Lester. Todd has the distinction of being there at the start line and starting all of our categories off from the start line. Todd, could you just give a description, particularly for the new student athletes, like what to expect when they're down there on the start line and how you kind of send them off each category?
Hey, good evening, everybody. Todd here. Yeah, it's not to scare anybody, but it's kind of controlled chaos. It's loud. There's a lot of parents and student athletes and siblings all cheering everybody on. So be prepared for some loud noises. To include our race ops guy, because he's pretty loud. Basically, we're going to line you up, make sure you're spaced apart in a safe manner, 5 wide, and we're going to line you up behind each other appropriately and be offset. Just have enough spacing behind each wheel so you're not right on top of each other. We're going to give you a countdown, and then at the go, we're going to sound the horn or the train horn, depending how we go with that. Which is something new for everybody this year, so be prepared. Might be a little louder than what you're used to, but we're gonna have some fun. Then we're gonna send you off, and you go take care of your business and have a fun, safe race. What about cover, Brian?
Todd, I think that's really good, and obviously adventure course remains open per the schedule. We will have marked a warm-up loop. It's kind of the last part of the old NICA race course on there. So coaches, you can take your student athletes out, get a warm-up ride in. It's fairly short on there. So we are keeping the adventure course open. And certainly we encourage everyone to cheer on all those racers throughout the day. As we wind up towards, this is always a tentative time, the podium ceremony. 5 o'clock. We on the wave schedule, people will notice we put a lot of time in between the categories and the fields. We just have a lot of new riders. We don't have data on, so we spread out as much as possible on our very first race to make sure we don't have a lot of categories and fields interacting with each other out there on the course. So bit of a longer day, but a fairly short course, and that's what is nice about Browns Creek. But again, awards maybe around 5 o'clock. There's a lot of cleanup and packing up to do before we get there. We'll try and make that happen as soon as we can. We recognize many of you have a pretty long drive back. So just a couple more things before we close kind of the formal presentation. I did want to say about the award ceremony, a couple cool things going on this season. Thanks to our sponsor, Ridge Supply, providing podium socks all season. So student athletes, if you get on the podium this season, you've got a pair of socks that look like this behind me with the Ridge Supply blues and then checkered pattern across the top, which is pretty cool. And then in the middle of our award ceremony, this league is crushing it on Team Trailcore hours. Leonard, do you have the current hour count off the top of your head? We were up over 1,800, I think, yesterday.
1836, I think, if I remember correctly.
That's fantastic. On our way to 3,000 hours as a goal for the season, because of a lot of hard work from our student athletes and coaches. But for student athletes, if you put 5 or more hours in, we'll give you a T-shirt and recognize you at podiums. And then if you put 10 or more hours in, we're going to give you this sweet pair of Cognitive MTB design gloves for 10 or more hours of trail work, and we'll recognize you at the podium ceremony, which is pretty cool. So let me close on weather. There is some wetness coming. I'll host a weather call tomorrow about 11 a.m. with key members of the staff to consider the venue. We invite the land manager and the trail boss on, and even our very own Elizabeth Gardner, meteorologist, to talk about weather impacts for the weekend. My gut tells me it's going to be a go for the weekend, but we'll be a little wet out there. The nice thing about Browns Creek, it's a resilient trail system. I don't anticipate the trail boss is going to say, don't come because it's going to be wet. It takes the weather pretty well. At that point, it's a safety consideration. So I'd like everyone here, if you're coming to Browns Creek this weekend, to be thinking about very conservative approaches to your Saturday. It would be horrible to get injured the day before your race, because Sunday's looking like it might turn out pretty nice. And I mention this specifically because at Browns Creek last season, it was our highest injury rate across the entire season. And most of those injuries happened during pre-ride. And it's probably because it's early in the season. So when you add a factor like wet into it, it causes me some concern. So I think we're going to be a go. I'll make the decision tomorrow and get the word out by noon tomorrow. So if heaven forbid we have to cancel, you can turn off your travel plans. But to me right now, it seems like a go. But I got to get the input from everyone tomorrow to make the best decision possible. Just be prepared for some things we might have to change to that schedule we just briefed on Saturday to keep everyone safe and not to tear up the race course, is my sense. So with that, that ends really the presentation of information for Browns Creek, and not too bad. We're about 45 minutes in. I thought we'd do 40. But Shell, can you walk us through some outstanding questions, and then we'll just leave the microphone open, so to speak, to other questions.
Yes. There was a question about if there is a list of food trucks somewhere and the times that they will be available.
Yeah, I appreciate that question. I'm changing things a little bit, maybe not for the better in that case, and someone's asking a question, but the Thursday prior to registration closing for the event, so last Thursday, in the single track times, I listed the food trucks that will be at Browns Creek. And it's going to be Poor Piggies and Platypus and Gnome. Their logos are in that single track times, and click on the logo, get to their website and see what menus they provide. And generally we try and get them there 10 to 4, 10 to 5 each day. Just like Ben said, Saturday morning, they'll be coming in, he'll be sighting on. We ask them to be ready to serve by 11. It varies, but yeah, 2 food trucks, and there will be some options for you to eat there at Browns Creek this weekend. So good question.
Just want to make sure. I'm not sure if Cooper was a student athlete, but he asked what kind of trail conditions to expect. I think we kind of covered that, but Cooper, do you want any more clarification on that or anything specific that you were concerned about? Cooper says we got it covered.
Awesome. But thanks for asking, Cooper.
And that's all I've got, unless I missed any in the threads on other questions.
We can add to the trail conditions if you want. Cooper, on the website, there is a video of your league director riding the trails if you want to see the trail conditions via video.
And again, to emphasize, it's a very well maintained trail system, thanks to Kfir Sorb. It's going to hold up pretty well, even if it gets wet. The folks that were out there for trail work last Saturday, it rained pretty substantially that Friday, and we were out riding on it the very next morning, and it was in really good shape. So it holds up well.
A couple of things that have come in. One, IC Imagine is going to have a beach themed photo booth set up at their tents, and they're encouraging other teams to come and take pictures. It's going to be exterior, so you can come by with your whole team and take pictures and not disturb them, which is pretty cool. Thanks for doing that. The other question was, are the lap cutoff times the same for both fields of MSA racers, even though they start 7 minutes apart? And on the document that we're all looking at down at the bottom, it does have those times the same. And if you look, that is for the MSA boys field, their starts 11:05 and 11:12. 11:12 and the cutoff is 11:42. So that's 30 minutes for them to do a single lap, which should be for MSA category more than enough time for them to make it to the end of that first lap in order to do their second lap.
Thanks for pointing that out, Sean. It's a great question. Sean's exactly right. It is the same cutoff time, and it's essentially because of finish line management. It's hard to pick individual plates and who's in which field to pull off the course. Just like Sean said, we have probably the most conservative, liberal, depending on your view, race duration limits in all of NICA. If everyone would like to go to Appendix B, the North Carolina exceptions to the handbook, look at our race duration guidance, and we have a long time to keep student athletes out on the course. So we have some fairly liberal lap cutoff times. I would just ask everyone on the call here, coach, student athlete, know what your cutoff time is. We will do the best job we can before we send off that category, announcing what the cutoff time is and displaying it at the finish line so you know how to race the clock to get that earned lap. But great question.
And Porter had a follow-up. Aren't the less fast kids in the second field, though? That is correct. However, this is the MSA category. So the less slow of the fastest of the middle school group. So they're there because they are faster than the 8B, 7B, and sixth grade racers. So that 30-minute is pretty lengthy for a single lap, given that our lap times are typically around 18 minutes by these fast middle school athletes.
Yeah, even this old guy got around in like 28 minutes, I think. Yeah, on that creaky bike of mine that Ben pointed out in the video. Thank you, Ben. I will just say, in case it's not evident about earn lap cutoff time, which sometimes brings a level of emotion out, you still finish the race and you still earn points for you and your team, even if you don't make the earned lap cutoff time.
One thing that we didn't talk about that usually comes up is for those that have never been to one of our races, if you're used to something like a USAC race where you go to check in to get your race plate and things like that, your head coach is going to have all of that. So head coaches come and they get a packet with their entire team race plates. And so you'll see your head coach in order to get your race plate. Make sure that everyone has a race plate on. So student athletes and coaches should always have their race plates on for the duration of the weekend once they arrive until they leave. And some good guidance. Definitely going to be that they take their race plate off whenever they're putting their bike on their rack to leave. We've had student athletes leave them on, and after an hour of being on the back of a car, there's no more race plate. Make sure that you put them somewhere where you're going to be able to use it again, because these are your race plates for the season. There's a fee if you lose it and you need to get another one. So just a couple of things for those that are not aware or maybe need the reminder of how things work with our race plates.
Another question was just making sure that folks are aware of the PAT policy that's linked in the venue guidance on our event flyers. So just for everyone's awareness, please check that out. And then Porter Reese asked, is the lap cutoff time the same for both fields of MSA racers, even though they start 7 minutes apart?
Yep. We just covered that, Shell. It is the same.
Okay.
Yep. But thanks for making sure.
This is Dave McBride. If we did a petition post the race plate cutoff date, do we have to get a different race plate? What's the process for that?
So David, yes, if a petition came in, was approved, and that athlete changed categories after the regular season registration deadline of 21 January, yes, that athlete gets a new plate, and that plate should be in your packet when you pick up on Saturday.
Okay.
Because Hike has been managing that for about the past
Okay.
week, so should be in there. But check with her.
Okay.
When,
Thank you.
Yep, quite welcome. Quite welcome.
Brian, do you want to speak to the wristbands that we're using this weekend and in future race events or weekend events?
In terms of what, was there a question about the wristbands?
I saw one question. I can't find it again, but it was a question of I think the question was, do you get one for Saturday or Sunday? And then where are we displaying it wearing it on wristed the whole time or hanging it on a bicycle?
Oh, so yes, one wristband to rule them all for the weekend. So Saturday and Sunday. And then in terms of display, that is a good question. Visible one, I'll stipulate that. But I don't know, Shell, when we talk that through, bike handlebar or truly on the wrist? I think truly on the wrist is in my mind.
I'm sorry, I'm answering questions in the chat again and have no idea what you're talking about.
Wristbands, they just need to be displayed on the person or the bike.
Yeah, I don't think they're gonna stay on your handlebars though, unless you wrap it around twice maybe, but
All right. Well, we might just be coming to a close here if no more questions. I want to thank everyone for dialing in. Looking forward to seeing everyone out there at Browns Creek this weekend. It's been a while since the band was back together, so to speak. And just travel safe on your way out there. And looking forward again to seeing everyone. Thanks everyone for dialing in.